I'm just such a go-getter, you know, and I run my own show, and I'm used to that. And so I really had to learn the hard way that this is not your show. You have to just keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? Because I'm kind of a producer myself, and you just have to learn when you keep your mouth shut and when you don't. And I learned the hard way, mostly. I think.
Did you not know that at the time? I mean, hindsight being 2020, are you saying that you basically butted heads creatively?
Well, yeah, I bet. But if I had kept my mouth shut about my whole violin thing and let them do whatever they wanted me to do, and you know, not played my violin live, you know, I think I would have been a different character, but I would have lasted longer. Mm-hmm. I would have lasted till the end. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I think I'm also speculating because I was let go.
Okay.
And I was also speculating why, and I look back in hindsight, they just probably didn't want to deal with me anymore.
We all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
The opening that you just heard at the beginning of this program was from an interview that I did with a young lady named, or at least was named, The Phantom. Her actual name is Lynette Treadgold, a violinist, former wild wrestler, not very long, but former wild wrestler, and bodybuilder. The interesting combination of stuff. That was in 2018 that I had that interview. I thought it was somewhat appropriate, considering that the little universe that the WoW exists in has been somewhat turned upside down. We will still do the review of the episode, of course, but I don't think I could even get to that review without bringing up or talking about all the stuff that is going on within and around WoW in the last couple of days. This is your host, Mr. Green. You are listening to the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. As stated at the beginning of this, that audio clip was to illustrate that, comings and goings in wrestling organizations are not anything new. WoW has existed somewhat under the radar with that for a lot of years. Keep in mind, the person that I was talking to, the Phantom there, wrestled in like 2001. Never got back into another ring because she was another one of the models and actresses that got hired, and she was trained into doing that. But she was basically saying, as you heard, that how could I put it, that essentially she felt like she should have just moved along to get along. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going on in WoW today. I'm not saying that applies to any persons that have been in and or left in the last several weeks, if not days, of this recording. I'm just simply stating that firings, releases, quitting, whatever phrase or descriptive term that you may have for talent coming in and out of a particular organization, although it has not been public with WoW, it has happened in WoW on a number of occasions. But we'll get to that. There's so much that's kind of built around it. It almost really overshadows the entirety of reviewing the episode. Almost. I'm still going to review the episode, but I'm just saying that you really didn't expect to hear some of the stuff that is going on. Whether I thought that it might be happening behind the scenes or not is a different issue, but just the idea that it has found its way into some sort of public forum is interesting, to say the least. That's probably the best way I can phrase it. So what we're going to do is, as we discussed this, we're just going to place that into the news, views, and updates section. And hopefully we can get some things rolling here, because there really is a lot. As I gave that little bit of audio, I've gone through and I've done what I would consider a reasonable amount of research to try to lay some level of groundwork. Not in one direction or the other, just placing precedent out there. And you can come to your own conclusions beyond that point, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to list as for or against any particular individual or the company or WoW itself without me knowing everything that took place. I mean, that would be a bit unfair. Now, I say that as somebody that I know. I honestly know that my initial feeling was, oh, WoW must have did something wrong. I admit that. That was my gut reaction. I was like, they must have did something wrong. But I didn't want to, like, oh, well, they must have, break out the torches and screw them and this, that, because, again, there's two sides to the story. And if I can paraphrase a line that I heard from Neil Tyson deGrasse, I hope I'm getting his name in order. There's personal truth, political truth, and objective truth. Where we're at right now with the parties involved, I think is going to fall more in line of a personal / political truth. It's going to carry both of those. But what we need is an objective truth. This thing happened. This was the result. That's what we need to clarify all of this. I don't know if we're going to get that, because I don't know if WoW is going to officially make a statement. A statement has been made, although in some areas it was removed. Don't know why. I still have it. I will read it. But yeah, I was like, that's what people who are following this story will need, because we're going to get the personal truths. We got a bunch of them, actually. So let's go ahead and get into that now. This is your news, views, and updates. And it is likely going to be just encompassed and engulfed with WoW material at this point. So, as you may or may not know, and there is a video that is sitting separate of this, my bonus episode, but it was titled "The Tonga Twins Quit?" ? Because I didn't know whether they quit or fired, or you can't fire me, I quit. I don't know what the circumstances were, but that was what had been going on at the time. Since that time, and I did read the release, we'll call it, that the Tonga Twins put out regarding their feelings towards WoW, to put it lightly. There has been other stuff that has taken place behind that. So I'm going to try to go in order so we can, or at least as much order as I can, to get this, paint a clear picture as I can do it. So you've heard the complaint, for lack of a better term, that the twins have put forth. That was responded to. And that was responded to by Simone Williams. Now, of course, Simone Williams, I guess I'm saying her name right, but Simone Williams, who we know as Princess Aussie on the show posted her response to this incident or this situation. So I'm going to read a little bit of that, and we will pick it up from there and carry on a little bit further because there's actually a bit more of this. She wrote, WoW has many flaws and has a ton of growing pains with good and bad decisions along the way. But what's happening right now is not right. Not right is it all caps. The Tonga twins were let go. They did not quit. The Tonga twins were called out because of their own actions, bullying talent, threatening talent, and acting off-brand online. All of which is documented and hopefully for their sake doesn't make it online. Women's empowerment isn't about burning a company down and taking everyone's jobs away from them because you didn't like being told no. When just hours before being let go, you're sitting locker room leader. What? I'm sorry, I lost that train there. You're sending locker room leader motivational speeches in a company-wide group chat. WoW has a long way to go, that's clear, but I'll be damned if I let the ego of two very well treated and pushed talent speak out on our behalf out of spite. That's fair. I'm sure that the twins are going to view that differently. But, like I said, personal truth, political truth, objective truth. It's going to be up to the company at this point. I mean, look, to say whether they were actually fired or not. The twins, I'm pretty sure, can say that, you didn't fire us, we quit, or whatever the case may be. The end result is, the objective truth is, they no longer work there. However that came to be. Whether they were fired or they got let, or they walked out. That's a whole different thing. I read that because, as you know, and I keep her anonymous, one person who has had interactions with WoW, who we refer to as February, also spoke to me about that. I asked, and she was kind enough to provide some insight onto what was going on. And it was a case of I'm trying to be fair and nice here. Look, it's similar stories coming across multiple sources. That's the best way that can be illustrated. February said that she saw people getting cursed out, bullying, girls in the back, so in Discord, threatening talent, thinking they were above training. These are the statements that were presented to me. And again, these are their statements. I'm just relating it. Also, the statement I said that was presented by WoW, which was on Gerwick.net initially, or at least the first version of that was on Gerwick.net. That one was removed. However, someone was bright enough, quick enough, smart enough to get a hold of that before it was pulled down completely. And I think it has been re-uploaded with a different link now, so it may have been refreshed. But I will read the response. Now, I want to make this also clear. February says that this did not come from David McClain. This is her. This is her statement. She's like, I'm not sure who made this statement. It definitely wasn't David. Likely someone on the roster or in the production or in costume. But all of these items are true. I was like, okay, well, all right. So I'm assuming that she read it and probably said, okay, he wouldn't word it this way, or he probably wouldn't even bother with it to begin with. But she does not dispute the things that are being listed. So let us read this post now. This comes to us from Gerg.net. they received this from a Women of Wrestling source. They do not reveal their source. Okay, let's see. In response to our May 9th post, the Tonga Twins leave WoW, we received the following from a Women of Wrestling source. This article is inaccurate as these women were all released by WoW. 1. Vicky Lynn cursed out Penelope Pink in front of a bunch of us in the makeup room. David saw this. 2. Vicky Lynn bullied makeup, production staff, and wrestlers alike. 3. Tonga Twins bullied multiple talents like Crystal Waters, Ariel Sky, and injured talent like Wrecking Ball. 4. Tonga Twins are dangerous to work with, so bootleg merchandise constantly tagging the WWE in efforts to grab attention and constantly said how WWE is on our time. Okay, so I would also, again, really hope that is leaves something to be challenged, or that it leaves something for explanation. I don't want to jump to the conclusion that, well, that's what happened, because it could be a half truth. I want to give credit here. I want to not just credit. I want to give the open for explanation. But that is on Gerwick.net as of right now, the updated version. You can go on there. You can find it. If I remember, I will leave the link if you want to read it. If I don't put it on there, somebody just remind me. Put a note in the comment like, hey, you forgot to put this link up out, and I'll try to do it for that, because I'm in the middle of editing this entire thing and there's a lot. So yeah, just give me that little heads up. Now, that was one thing that was brought up there. The second, I'm going to have to do a little bit of podcaster participation, because this is an audio clip that came from another podcaster that was sent to me, who talked about the situation somewhat briefly. So, if you are not familiar, this is a clip from the RCWR show. And what he's talking about here is he's bringing up a tryout incident, which allegedly, the twins were involved in. So this comes from the RCWR show. This is his original audio from his program. Also, I should be putting links up for this if you want to hear the entirety of his show. But here it is now. We're going to give a little bit of his statements on the fact of the matter. But before I run it, I want to also say that I have not tracked this information down to verify it. This is allegedly from several years ago. So take that into account. You may want to reach out to him and ask him where he got the information if you want to verify. But here it is right now. The RCWR show, speaking of the Tonga Twins and their WWE Natalia-led tryout.
The thing I just said about WWE. Well, here's something of a nugget of information. Very, very interesting. Tonga Twins apparently went to a tryout, or they went to the facility that TJ Wilson and Natalia have. Apparently there was a lot of people that were doing different set of cardio drills on this particular day. Tonga Twins would not have anything to do with the cardio drills, and instead had said, we're not doing that. We want to do the wrestling. We want to get in there and we want to do the wrestling. So let us know when you're getting ready to do the wrestling. Irked off Natty so much that Natty kicked them out, told them to never come back.
That was the audio clip, again, from the RCWR show. And like I said, it does feel like this is something that is coming across from multiple sources. sharing similar stories talking about this entire incident. And on the surface of it, doesn't look good. But we will leave that open for explanation. As they did say, they being the twins, they have stuff that they will unveil at, I guess, a given point. But also, Princess Aussie and her day-to-day Twitter, I would imagine, also said that the other side of the coin is well documented. So, I mean, I would have really hoped that it would not get to a point where it would create a potential, well, I can't say a WoW civil war because they're not involved in WoW anymore, but just problems amongst talent. Because you never know what locker room that you might have to come into later on down the line. But yeah, I would hate that it would get to this point that it would start to create a problem amongst talent. Now that problem may already be there, but it's disappointing to hear, if nothing else. But as much as this seems to kind of build on and stack up against some of the talent, there is the argument to be made for the promotion itself. As it was presented, there are people who I don't want to say blindly follow the promotion, but of course you're going to stick up for the promotion that has taken you in, right? I don't think that's surprising or shocking or whatever the case may be. What is a bit surprising was and let me word this correctly because I don't want to, cause any legalities. I will not say that anyone was told to defend the company. I won't say that. What I will say is that within 24 to maybe 48 hours of the negative post towards WoW, there was a hashtag thank you WoW narrative that hit the scene in relatively short order. When that came down, no less than 17 different posts from WoW talent hit Instagram, all thanking them and how WoW was wonderful to them and saved my life, saved my career, etc., etc., etc. I cannot say that the people that put this up were not earnest in their feelings. I can't say that. I'm pretty sure a lot of them were. But even if the words that were typed up or spoken or whatever the case may be was absolutely how they felt, with all sincerity, with no prodding, with no, hey, you guys do this for us, without any of that, it just comes off as very suspect that everybody just decided to do it all at once. This reeks of the AEW playbook. And if I am going to be somebody that would say that this was crazy by AEW to do it, then I also have to say that, yeah, it was probably not the best thing for a while to do it, because it first off, most of their fan base didn't even know what they were doing. There was a few people that was like, was WoW going out of business? Because it was just random. It was random, and it was all out the blue. Suddenly, I rode the bus 15 miles to go for the opportunity to go try out and meet David McClain. And then he said that I belonged in WoW, and I thanked him ever since. And I was able to do this, that, and the other. And, the skies are bluer, the grass is greener, and the water tastes crisper because I'm all a part of WoW. I don't know. So, that it just came off a little suspect that it all happened at one time. Again, I will not say that no one was told to mobilize and defend WoW, but this comes off to me, if you could put WoW in the embodiment of a human being, this would have looked like the roster got together in a circle around this person, linked arms, and stood shoulder to shoulder and said, "We'll protect you from the big bad world." That's what it felt like. Again, I'm sure a lot of them meant every word that they said. It's just when you got like almost 20 of them at one time just feeding this stuff out. It was very much like when Edge just showed up on TV one day and like, "Hey, I don't want to talk about the negatives in wrestling, guys. I want to talk about all the positives and the fresh matches." Like, come on. He didn't even say anything about a feud. He just went right off into defending AEW. Or when LuFisto said something about the AEW women's locker room, had a problem. And again, same rules apply. I'm not saying that she's right. I'm not saying that she's wrong. But when she did it, it just got met with every woman on the AEW roster sitting like, "Oh, locker room is a sisterhood and this, that, and the other, and yada, yada, yada." That should be something that comes from the promotion. I felt that way about AEW, and I feel that way about WoW. If they want to nip that in the bud, don't send your foot soldiers to do it. Let HR, customer service, whatever. I'm customer service. They ain't dealing with that, but you know what I'm saying. Let the management, the PR department, take care of that. That's what probably should have taken place. Either that, or in their case, ignore it. Because like I said, most of their fan base probably didn't know what was going on anyway. I would say a significant chunk of them, when the Tonga twins stop appearing on TV, will not know. Because they never know. They never know that there's somebody right now that I went onto the Reddit thing. It's like, "What happened to Wrecking Ball? She's been gone for months." They don't know. So this leap to the defense of WoW strategy that they had, I thought was a bit of a waste of time. But, you know, I'm also not the one that's out there making these judgment calls. If a judgment call was indeed made. But as we move on, I think it also to be important to talk about that what is going on with Vicky Lynn, what is going on with the Tonga twins, and potentially other persons that were there is not some sort of isolated event. We can look at the side of WoW, and I can honestly say I get it. Because if you have people there that's making the rest of the roster feel uncomfortable, then yeah, for whatever reasons it may be, if you're in there and you're becoming more of a pain rather than a pleasure to deal with, if you're someone that's creating a hard time and you don't have as much leeway or leverage in your being there to justify that, then I totally get where the promotions come from. I get where the company is coming from in that. Because you have to get rid of it. It's not fair all the time, but you have to. Because what's the feelings of one person over the roster of 40 or 50 or whatever? On the other side of that coin, the talent does have to do with the talent it has to do in being good for themselves. Now, I did say a while ago, while for some, I'm not going to say for all, but for some, will disguise to themselves how good they really are. And I can only hope, and I'm not saying this towards any specific situation, but WoW is a pretty protected environment. I get the impression of, from being told that there's extras in the audience that applaud, from being told, you know, the girls that do wrestle well have to kind of slow it down or make the ones that have no wrestling environment, you know, look good on camera and various other things. when all of these things are taking place within, this company, within WoW, it can create an environment where the talent may want to complain. Some of them, at least. Like I said, I would imagine if anybody was going to do it, it would be the ones who came out of some sort of wrestling background preceding being at WoW. So I can see it on both sides of the fence. But what I did find, because I didn't look it up at the time that it happened, when I watched the show, it's just Malia Hosaka just disappeared. It was just no longer there. But what I did not know until it was brought up to me is that there was a post that she made some time ago, back last year, March 2023. She talked about, and fired in this post that she had is in quotations. So I think she probably views this as less as a firing rather than a release or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to try to get through this, but just bear with me a bit because it is a fairly long post that she did, and some of these words really run together the way they have it, the way she has it. So, but I thought that this would be good to kind of relate along with a response that she had to one of her followers. So let's try to get through this and see if any of this relates to what's going on currently. Again, this is from Malia Hosaka's fan page. So if you want to find this and read it yourself, you can. The date is March 23rd, 2023. I'm sure if you just search out Malia Hosaka on Facebook, you will find it. So I've kept quiet this past year since David McClain fired me from WoW after the tapings last July. It is only now after I see and listen to his comments about why I was not with Exile in the next matches that I've decided to speak up, since it seems he has no intentions of giving me an explanation or having me return. I spent May, July working with and training the new girls of WoW. During this time, I separated my shoulder and took a bad fall that aggravated the herniated disc in my neck to the point of losing feeling in my right hand. I had incredible pain during the tapings, and I was in the basement agenting the matches from 9 a.m. until they finished, sometimes 10 p.m. or later. I left the room only long enough to see a chiropractor hoping for some pain relief. David went from praising me to firing me in less than 48 hours because someone, or she got someone with an S in parentheses around it, so potentially multiple people, because someone accused me of being a bully. However, he would not tell me what I did that was perceived as being a bully. As far as I know, none of the trainees found me to be a bully, but if my telling people they cannot do something because it's something he disliked, or because others were already doing it, or that they were doing, well, God, this is all made and rolled in together. I'm sorry about that. I just butchered that whole thing. Or that they were doing things that made them look stupid. She's missing a word. And I attempted to help fix it, or freaking out when I thought someone was about to be injured. Well, if these things make me a bully, then fine. But to lump me in with Tessa Blanchard and the actions of her actually being a bully and just an overall B, I'm not going to, for YouTube purposes, I will not say it. That was uncalled for, but it ripped my heart out last year. I truly enjoyed my time training and working with these women. No, I don't sugarcoat things, but just because I say it how it does not equate to being bullied. Or say it how it is does not equate to being bullied. There's a huge difference between saying something is or looks stupid and saying you're stupid. If any of these girls, pro or WoW, had questioned a WWE, NXT, AEW agent the way they had me, or talked back the way they had to me, they would have been fired or sent home on the spot. Genesis always wanted to be the alpha. Guess she got her way, which is funny. When days before her coming back to the U.S., David asked me if she was even worth it. In parentheses, she has the cost of a plane ticket from Italy. He also questioned having Exodus due to her association with AEW. And I said I wouldn't do Exile without them. Another girl was on the short list to be sent home as well because her teammates couldn't stand working with her. But I helped to ensure she stayed for the tapings. There are so many little fires I handled behind most of the girls' backs that they don't even know, especially the pro girls who he hates to use to start with. I'm not shocked by that at all. Continuing on. But as always, I'm the one who stood for the others, but had only knives thrown in my back or silence from those not willing to stand up. If you look at the actions of people, you will see who they truly are. And while I may not kiss ass, sugarcoat, or hold your hand, my actions are the same in front of you as they are behind your back. I only show one face, and I am honest in how I deal with you. Yet, David keeps those who show one face and act another when he is out of sight. He keeps those who kiss ass and say what you want to hear rather than those who would work for the betterment of the company as a whole. Now, again, I read that to provide some level of groundwork and from someone who has been there. Give an outlook on how this is on potentially both sides of the fence. She noted within that post, and we're going off of what she says, okay, so take that for what it is. She noted in that post some feelings that David McClain may have had towards some talent. She also noted that she was working hard to kind of solve some, I guess, minor fires, minor problems. And it sounds like this same situation is a very similar situation to what we're dealing with currently, or what had happened currently amongst the Tonga twins and whoever else happens to be in the orbit of that. It's interesting. I wonder who's there that's putting out the fires now, or at least attempting to. It's funny. This is a year ago, and now periodically we've had people walk in and out of WoW. I'm sure for a variety of different reasons, but I'm starting to feel a running theme here. When asked about it on her page, or at least someone spoke about it on her page, someone basically said something to the extent of David McClain's business model wouldn't work because of who he hires, right? And then he compared it to other all-women's wrestling promotions and how Stardom trends on Twitter and WoW never trends, and so on and so forth. Malia responded with this. And again, I think this is important information regarding the environment that may exist there. I think she was being as fair as she could in these responses. So let me try to get through this without fumbling up too bad. She responds to him and his statements about WoW's business model, saying this: I can agree with you to an extent. I understand why he prefers to train actresses and models rather than book free agent women, especially after agenting matches. And she has two emojis, one of which is she's kind of holding her head and looking upset. And I'm going to stop right there just to say, because that had always been a theory of mine. Couldn't prove it. but I felt like there's only one gain that you have from hiring out rather than getting working wrestlers, free agent women, as she called it. And that is just an easier level of control. That's the only way. That's the only thing I can see, because if you get into a company that you had no aspirations in climbing the ladder in, regardless of what that company is, you probably don't care what they ask you to do, so long as it ain't anything embarrassing or beneath you. If it doesn't fall in one of those two categories, you probably be fine doing whatever it is that's in front of you. Opposed to, and I can say this because even when I booked for the little bit of time that I did it, you will hear that. Hey, well, can I at least go over? What's happening? You know, you're asking stuff like that. And they're like, look, I don't know. I'm not running the show. Are you going to be able to come back next month? Well, no. Well, then you can't go over. You know, it's those little bits of negotiating that you have to deal with that I can understand why she would put these emojis up there. But moving on and continuing with her post. But while it isn't about being seen as a totally legit league like Stardom for women, at least not in my opinion, she covers herself, and I like that she did it. It is meant to be campy and cheesy like the original Glow was, but with actual wrestling in between. And hopefully good wrestling as the trainees gain experience, etc. But the problem is in wrestling, you never get any better than those you're working with. And if everyone is at the same level, then there is a plateau to speak of as to how good the matches can actually be. Then you add in green girls who have been stars in their areas or up and coming and try to make them understand that the indie mentality of getting all my shit in doesn't work, because they are there to carry the greener girls so it doesn't become the blind leading the blind. In today's culture, if you tell someone no, or that they need to change something, or do a finish they don't like, or try to enforce what the office wants, you're a bully. It's only at places like WWE, AEW, where big TV time is at stake, that these women hold their tongues, because they know those agents won't put up with their shit, and they can be pulled in a heartbeat. But at WoW, especially after Tessa, all you have to do is say you're being bullied or run to David and kiss ass. But oddly enough, it isn't the actresses and models that complain the most or the loudest. It's the indie superstars who know best and get offended because they get told no. I honestly don't know what his issue is with me. It's more than this one incident, and he won't discuss it with me. David has never backed me or given me the benefit of the doubt when someone complains about me. He says I am a cancer in the locker room. I'm accused of being a bully. I'm just not happy, etc., etc., etc. When in actuality, I'm doing the job he was paying me to do. I was injured, frustrated, with biting my tongue when being disrespected, and I'm just naturally a quiet person that keeps to themselves. I wish WoW well. I really do. It's because I got to know the trainees and feel protective of them and what this biz can do, and because I know what the indie mentality is. Now, that's a lot. That's a lot to digest. But what I get out of that is some of that could bleed over into this situation now. Like I said, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't surprise me. And that's the very reason that I look at this and I say, I don't want to just say that, okay, the company just screwed them over and fired them. Nor do I want to say, well, they were just too big for the britches and they, got them and they quit or whatever and they got their release. Both of those things actually could be true. They could have been too big for them and the company could have fired them. Or they could have been too big for them and they quit and the company just let them, just like, all right, well, fine. We don't need you. It could be any number of things. We don't know. But the end result here is that it's probably, from what I'm reading with this, from what I'm getting in some messages, anonymous source, from February, from what I'm getting in just other posts and things like that, it seems like this may not be the end of it. I hope for their sake that it is, but it feels like this may not be the end of it. Because you're always going to have somebody that, may feel a little different. And yes, are the girls who came off the indies going to want something else out of that company opposed to the actresses and models? Probably, which is everything that I just said. It's like that's the only gain that you have of getting an actress or a model. It is an easier field or easier group of people to control. Having a better match is secondary, probably third or fourth on the list. Because if he hires girls that are there that can hit the ground running, they can make them look good long enough. Rather than, as she said, she being Malia Hosaka, having the blind leading the blind. But I will say this other thing as it relates to some of the talents that have been there who thought that WoW was going to be their cream of the crop, and having to leave and go into another environment, you can get a cold dose of reality of how bad it can be. And I don't mean bad in that it's just horrible to deal with, but I mean like you can get a cold dose of reality of, oh man, maybe I'm not as well off or well trained as I thought I was. That's possible. You can go into some other sites and I'll just leave it at they, with air quotes around they, have said that this is not an isolated incident. We just had the audio bite from the other podcast, but someone else said that these things took place in Booker T's promotion. So I don't know. This is going to be interesting, but I think we should close off with this. Regardless of what side of the fence you sit on, whether you're defending WoW, whether you're opposing WoW, whether you believe that these people are cancer, we got to get rid of them. Whether you believe that they bullied people and they just, had to be fired or they had to quit. Regardless to which side of that you exist on. The one thing that I feel that should be said across the board is, and you could probably all agree with that, WoW created that problem. WoW created that problem. If they are willing to just, and I'm going to say this without having any sort of inside track, I don't know if they sat them down in the office, had everybody tell me your side of the story. Okay, you tell me yours. I don't know if it got to that point. I would hope that it did, but if it did not, then WoW created this problem. If they're hiring people who have not trained properly, then WoW is creating that problem. Well, and not for nothing, just coming off the indies does not necessarily make you well trained. I mean, there are several women that have gone on to that company who are exceptionally well trained, in my opinion. Jesse Jones sits at the top of that list for me. And as one of the talents who should have been someplace else. All due respect to WoW. But coming off the indies does not necessarily make you a well-trained person. There are some that came off the indies and just did not want to bother doing anything else. When I read this story, I was like, it's not surprising to me because I've seen it. People who wrestle full matches, never been trained, or trained 3 or 4 times and then like, I'm good, and just start taking bookings. One of the examples that I was there for was having Brooklyn Creed get knocked out in front of my face in a triple threat match. She was irate when she got in the back room, asking her, where were you trained? When she found out, it was like this. She was never trained. This girl, and I'm not even gonna mention her name. She was never trained. She went to a couple of wrestling seminars, and she didn't want to bother with anything else because she felt like she had it down. And the only thing that was worse was the promoters kept booking her. They kept booking her and putting her in the situation, or putting the other roster members in situations where they had to make her look good. They had to carry her. Because now I'm booked with this person and this is the match I got. The only time that changed is when the locker room called it out. It's like, no, we're not doing this. That's probably never going to happen in a while. Why? I mean, we just heard Malia Hosaka's response to her follower. That's what Dave McClain likes, and after she dealt with some of the wrestlers, like, I can see why. Probably easier, less of a headache. But in any case, back to the point. If there are people that's in that company who are undertrained but on national television, getting in the ring with other people, that are putting their bodies and essentially their lives in their hands, that is WoW that created that issue. And it's only a matter of time before it bites somebody harder. It hasn't happened, and I'm not wishing it on anybody, but I think we all know that the ones that wrestle well are the ones that wrestle well and wrestle well often. And as she said in her thing, you don't get better until you get in there with people that are better than you. WoW doesn't have that hierarchy. It's just two sides of the fences. The girls that are trained to wrestle outside of this place and the girls that are not. End of story. And a couple of weeks ago, I put a question on the community tab and I asked whether or not you felt like WoW was a end destination for some talent. And I thought that was an interesting question because I know that there's a lot of them that are like, hey, I love WoW and WoW's been good to me, but did we really think, the fans, do we really look at them as a end destination? And honestly, it didn't come off like it was a place that they would wind up. Now, the voting was closer than what I initially anticipated, but it doesn't come off that way. It doesn't come off to seemingly most people that voiced their opinion there that this was the end destination for anyone's career. I was listening to a Bobby Heenan shoot interview, and his description of what Memphis wrestling was, I think, applies here. And before I even say it, I'm going to say it does not have to stay this way. But this is how I view WoW right now. As of right now, it seems like a place that you go if you're starting out or you're finishing up. That's basically what it feels like today. And I'm going to stress today. Because at least a significant chunk of their roster, I think everybody can agree to this, a significant chunk of their roster are very new to wrestling in general, much less national television. But they're very new. So, to the ones like your Katarina Jinxes and Goldie Collins, the ones that probably are not going to attempt wrestling beyond this, or the Ariel Skies, who probably would continue wrestling beyond this, but WoW got to them first before they really traveled around and made a name for themselves, before they got too big to be in WoW. She's starting out. Amber O'Neal should have been someplace else, and I hope that she can get to the NWA, her and Jesse Jones. But as it is right now, it's probably the finish up spot for her. It's possible. She might get out of that. Don't know. But as it is right now, it seems like this might be the finish up spot. So you see what I'm going with that. That's what it feels like as of right now. As I'm recording this, the poll that I had there was up to 49 votes. 65% said it's a stop on the way. 35% said yes, it's an end destination. Make of that what you will. And if you have a comment or if you want to go on there and you want to vote and say, all right, well, this is what it should be or this is what it isn't, feel free. Same rules apply to the other poll that I put up 6 days ago as of this recording, which is at 36 votes, about this entire situation with the Tonga twins. Is it a sign of further problems to come, or is this just an isolated issue and nothing more? 61% says a sign of further problems to come. 39% says isolated issue, nothing more. Time will tell. We are going to see whether this is going to apply and get anyone else to speak up, speak out, and say anything with or about WoW. I think I've covered all of that right now. I'm sure there will be other stories and other bits of information that will come as time goes on. But at this point, I am going to take a break to get out of the news, views, and reviews and updates. Sorry. And when we get back, it'll be time for the review. All right, now we're back. So now we can go into the full review of WoW, Women Wrestling. The slates for this episode is going to be chronological number 87, seasonal number 235, the title Facing the Boss, the air date, May 11th. And this show starts up with Princess Aussie coming out to ringside, and she does what all good WoW superheroes does and gets the microphone and immediately starts talking to David McClain. And as she's doing this, for whatever reason, WoW cuts to a recap of what's going on, intercut with the Tron, or the opening video of Adriana Gambino, and then Adriana Gambino and Reina Del Rey come out the ringside. Of course, the videos that I just talked about that they intercut in there was explaining the history of Del Rey and Gambino and Princess Aussie, or at least explaining some of it. I'll get to that in a second. So they come out to answer, and this sets up the mystery partner angle, but it sets it up for both sides. As we knew last week, the setup was Princess Aussie goes into someone's room, and we're left to kind of ponder who this person could be. Who is it that will side with Aussie to help her in her fight? That was supposed to be the big mystery that we're going to figure out as we go into this match. However, they pretty much laid in another mystery on top of the mystery when they say, well, you got that, I got a little trick up my sleeve too. And so then they lead into, we don't know who the partners are going to be. Not on either side. I was like, well, what was the point in that? I thought the whole gimmick here was supposed to be that we're waiting on the edge of our seats to find out who Ozzy's partner was going to be. Now, I did not think, unfortunately, that it was going to be anybody that was just going to like set the world on fire or make me like, oh man, I can't believe it's her. I just never got that impression. It always felt like, okay, this is WoW. They're going to pick somebody within WoW and, we'll move on from there. But to add another mystery partner to a situation that already had a mystery partner, basically at the last minute, I'm a little perplexed about. This entire angle either seems out of order or that is missing something. Is it just me? I get it. They did a recap, but where in this did it explain what is Princess Aussie's beef? I should say it the other way around. What is Adriana Gambino's beef with Princess Aussie? I don't understand this whole thing. Like, we've got an angle going on, and it's a feud of some sort. But why? They've never explained why. It just is. I can recall the Adriana Gambino Princess Aussie match. Gambino won. She won the match. And it's not like Aussie came out behind it and said, I'm going to be the one to end your winning streak. You just watch. And then Gambino gets scared about it. It just moved over into this. And I don't know what it is with WoW that they do this. It's like they leave out all pertinent information that exists in between. They show you the start, some maybe, and then they'll give you a finish, and then you're supposed to be into that. But there's little to no build to anyone, anywhere, for any angle at any time. It just happens. And it's like, boom, all right, here we are, we're up and running, so let's go. And this is one of those angles. Like, I wish somebody could say, well, Adriana Gambino's after her because of this. Or she chose to attack her because of what? Like, we're at a point where this woman is paying someone to take her out or protect her from him, but we do not know why. No clue. And I doubt that is ever going to be explained because they aren't good at explanation. The match later on in this episode basically backs me up on that. So we go to the next match, which is Animal Instinct, at one point known as Animal Control, because I guess they didn't get the names of their heel team correct. And they're taking on the Mother Truckers. They're not just taking on the Mother Truckers, they're getting a whole new title shot. They had their last title shot 6 weeks ago against the same team. And spoiler alert, same result. Holly Swag, Big Rig Betty, the Mother Truckers came out as the tag team champions, and they would leave as the tag team champions. And I don't think that's going to be any shock, considering the fact that Animal Instinct, for whatever it is that WoW's trying to portray them out to be, like, hey, they could actually win. They get another shot, another opportunity. Like, they can try to make them out to be a threat as much as they can humanly make them. But the end result is the same. These two have not won a match since being there, much less won as a team. I don't even know why they would continue on, quite honestly. Never mind the fact that how did they just jump into two title matches in a row despite the fact that they haven't won anything. Why aren't the Banditas in there? Well, I guess they've broken up. Why isn't Exile in there? But they're about to break up, I assume. There's a lot of gaping holes of logic, and it seems like they're pretty light on heel teams to challenge for this. But that's called short-sighted booking. So in any case, they start off the match. They being Animal Instinct. They jump the baby faces. They beat up Holly Swag on the outside. The Heats got on Big Rig Betty. And to their credit, physically speaking, Collins and Katarina Jinx look fine. I would assume that this was worked out well ahead of time so that Swag and Big Rig could take care of them and just make them look good. Nothing in here is like super overly complicated. They seem to follow directions well. And that's about as far as I can go with that. So in any case, like I said, Big Rig Betty is taking the bulk of the punishment here by the two critter control or whatever. They try to get the pin on Big Rig because they can't do it. Let's just get to where it was when she gets the hot tag, gets Holly Swag in there. Swag has to get in with Goldie Collins. She charges over, nails Katarina Jinx before it's too late. Catches her with somewhat of a super kick. And Swag does a lot of the cleanup. It's a little bit in reverse in this match. That's one thing I have to point out there. Except for the fact that at the end, it's like she had to ignore the fact that Goldie Collins was there so she could turn around and allow her to place her up on her shoulders so she could do a torture rack. The torture rack is taking place on one side of the ring, but then Goldie Collins walks completely to the opposite side to where her partner is so she can get within arm's reach to be able to tag her. Which was, anyway. Why should I even go into that? So anyhow, yeah, Collins walks over there. She gets the tag, which is surprise. I don't know why she didn't see that coming, but, that's asking too much. Collins spins Swag out for like a spin out Blue Thunder Bomb. Big Rig has already tagged herself back in. And gets a kick, saves her daughter. Gets Goldie Collins up. She takes a stunner in a unique fashion, and then that's it. 1, 2, 3. Big Rig scores the pin. The Mother Truckers retain. Nothing really surprising here. It's the same song and dance as far as the Mother Truckers are concerned. I've said before, they are probably the most winningest team that is in WoW currently. And it doesn't look like there's any sign of that changing anytime soon. But the blonde tag there was just, that was a bit much for me. I was like, why are you walking all the way back over there? She wasn't even close to that corner. She just chose to go. Anyhow, next segment, WoW is setting up for the mystery main event, which again, they pulled some of the rug out of because it's no longer a case of who's the babyface partner going to be. Now it's who are both of them going to be. And it just nullified it for me. The next segment is Penelope Pink coming out with Lana Starr and Vicky Lynn McCoy. I guess we will not be seeing that combination anymore. Taking on Americana. I am not entirely sure what it is that they're doing with Americana at this point. I thought that they were going to be sticking with the All-American girls. They would make a run for tag team titles, maybe possibly get into a tag team feud with another heel group or team. That was not the case, and that does not seem to be that is going to be the case. It is just like a little stepping stone to move her off and doing something else. So they being the commentators are talking about how Americana's moved up in the ranks. I'm like, what ranks did she move up in? The match starts off with that, and then you got Lana Starr coming out in a very Americana-esque themed shirt. She has jacket, I should say. She has a shirt that says, I am the American Dream on it. And then she gets up on the turnbuckles and she does Americana's pose and smiles and all that good stuff like that as Penelope Pink comes out the ringside doing what she does best, being the heel. The Pink Lana Starr combination still works. If there's anything I can say about Lana Starr, she is probably the best version of a manager that exists in this company. Not for trying or not, that the other ones, they just have not had that opportunity. Sophia Lopez, Matt Smart, Angelica Dante, they've not been positioned the way that Lana Starr has. Lana Starr, despite WoW's best efforts, has credibility. She has managed the champion. She has managed the tag team champions. Regardless of whether I or anybody else liked it or not, she was a champion in her own right. So, amongst all of that, she is the most successful manager that WoW has. I don't know if that's a plus on her or a minus on everybody else, but that's the way it goes right now. After they do this and Penelope Pink cuts her little promo at the beginning, Americana comes out, but for some reason, and every babyface seems to do this. I mean, look, I'm not saying that they all need to come out with partners and valets and bodyguards and friends and this, that, and the other, but after a while, you would think that the babyface would learn the lesson, like maybe I should not walk out here by myself. And WoW just will not leave illustrating or showcasing Levi alone. They just won't. I don't get it, but they just won't do it. So Americana comes out to the ring. And this is, of course, like I said, following the promo that Penelope Pink gave, which she did a good job. She generally does. She has a Penelope Pink promo where she is the best damn thing that's going on. And essentially what she did here, just before I go off into the match, is somewhat lay out not a challenge, but a directive. She laid out her objective. I am going to go through essentially everybody that Abilene Maverick beat in a quest to get back to the championship and present herself as just as good, if not better, than the reigning champion. And I had to make sure I brought that up because oftentimes I say that they do promos and there's no mission statement, there's no objective, there's this, that. But here Pink gave an objective. She illustrated, talked about what it is that she wants to do and what she's trying to accomplish, and that's all well and good. Of course, WoW just could not help themselves. They had to put the camera on Levi for at least 2-3 seconds just to let you know that, hey, Levi's there and it's her son, because, we haven't heard that enough. So we got Americana going up against Penelope Pink, which, without them beating it into the ground, is pretty much being portrayed as a veteran wrestler taking on a rookie. That's more or less how it's portrayed. Now, despite the fact that both of them have been in this company essentially for the same length of time, I can understand that if you knew who Americana was outside of this wrestling, or outside of WoW wrestling, or if you knew who Penelope Pink was outside of WoW wrestling. But I don't know if it works well inside of the WoW universe to say, well, or present her as less than when not but a couple of months ago she was on everybody else's level. But anyhow, so the whole point of this match is not a showcase for Penelope Pink, but to put Penelope Pink in some sort of meaningful role, which I will say good on them for at least giving her this much. It's not a lot, but it's better than nothing. I don't know what's going on with Americana, what her purpose in this particular stage of WoW is supposed to be. I mean, they did reintroduce a rivalry, Jesse Jones, but I don't know where that's going. Is it over with already? Who knows? But in this particular match, we got Pink, and she smacks around a little bit, shows off, gets on the turnbuckles, and they did this spot, which I don't know if it worked out quite as well as it might have been laid out on paper. A couple of points in the match, Penelope Pink would take Americana and chuck her out through the ropes to the floor to her waiting comrades, that being Vicky Lynn McCoy and Lana Starr. Lana Starr has noticeably weaker kicks than Vicky Lynn, although, and because she's a manager, I don't think that works against her because she's a manager and she's supposed to be somewhat inept. So even though it might be a case of her not knowing how to toss good working kicks, I don't really see a problem with it because Vicky Lynn feels it is a shame to know that Vicky Lynn's not going to be there anymore. But I certainly hope that she goes someplace where she can pick up and really showcase just how good she is. All personal issues that may exist within the Wild locker room aside, I hope that as far as talent is concerned, just on that alone, I hope that she can continue what she's doing. Anyway, so they take this spot and they do this about 2 or 3 times. First time they do it, they send her back in, Vicky Lynn and Lana Starr. I don't know about this little portion here because when she gets back into the ring, it's like she stands up almost completely unfazed that she was kicked at all on the floor. And just kind of like, hey, what's going on? Like she looks at Penelope Pink as if to say, what are you doing? And then just takes a kick in the guts. So, and then is draping her over the ropes, which becomes the worst selling thing that Americana does. She does that choking that she does is always looks over animated and just like it's like a kid that's playing the part of just being choked. Like, hey, I'm gonna grab you around your throat, act like how I'm choking you, and that's the face that she makes. Like, whoa, just really cartoonish. But I know what she's trying to do, and this is one of those points. So I'm like, it would probably help if she got around some other people to train it, so they could at least make a suggestion or something like that. I am going to make a public suggestion for her with this selling. Americana, Samantha Sage, Wrestling Mom, try this. The next time someone reaches around your throat or drapes you across the ropes or something like that, squint your eyes and grit your teeth. Trying to sell I'm choking doesn't really sit well with you, or at least not that version of it. And maybe it's going to take you a little bit to find the one that looks the most impactful against you. But I find, that's one that works in movies as well. Squint your eyes, grit your teeth, and kick wildly or whatever free appendage that you may have. Utilize that to sell the desperation. They got you around the throat, put your hands around their wrists like you're trying to get it off. They got you draped across the rope, kick your feet back. But try that rather than the huffing and puffing because, it doesn't translate as well as I think it should on television. Anyhow, that was just a little brief interlude there. So back to the match. We got Americana basically being slammed around and picked up and picked on by Penelope Pink, showing how good she is and how easily she can dispatch her opponents far better than Abilene Maverick is. I guess that is the overall story that's being told. It is a shame that the story that does get told here sometimes gets lost in the crowd. I mean, sometimes they just look like they're there under just because they were told to be there. And now that I'm thinking about it, some of them probably were. But anyhow, so a second time, Americana's tossed out to the floor. They pick her back up. The third time is where I'm like, I don't understand what exactly was supposed to happen here. And leading into this third go-round of being tossed out to the floor, there's one thing I just have to bring up, and because I can never unsee it. I don't know why she sells this way. But there's the point in the match where Penelope Pink gives a forearm shot to Americana, like right across the chest. But she sells it like somebody just kicked her in the stomach. And this isn't an isolated thing. It's just that is just for whatever reason is how she sells it. I don't know why, but it just seems like it's a small thing, but it's such an awkward sell. She is getting forearmed in the chest, but then she bends over and backs up, like I said, like somebody just kicked her in the stomach. So I don't know. And now that I've noticed it, it's like I can't unnotice it. I see her do it in other matches. Saw her do it in the last match, matter of fact. So anyhow, Pink has her. She is about to toss out to the floor again. I don't know what objective that was going to accomplish. But Americana reverses it. She sends Penelope Pink out to the floor, and for whatever reason, Lana Starr charges over there like she couldn't identify the difference between Penelope Pink and Americana in mid-flight. Like, I'm sure she was paying attention to the match. She looked like she was paying attention to the match. She was staring right at her. So I don't know what it was that made her feel like, oh, well, this must be Americana on the floor. And then she charges over and then she stops herself. And Vicky Lynn is giving like the facial expression like, whoa, I was about to beat you up. Which maybe she was. But anyhow. So as she's on the floor, Americana gets on the apron. She does a nice crossbody. Like I said, she can do the moves. She is just missing these tiny nuances that exist with with wrestling sometimes. She had a kind of little awkward moment getting back in the ring. I don't know why that was. Like she got in and she decided to sit on her butt and then get up in the least quick way that she could. Maybe she was hurt. I don't know. So she tosses a nice drop kick at Penelope Pink. Got to give her credit for that. Does a reasonable springboard, which I don't know if it was supposed to have been a double axe handle, but it was kind of like a clothesline, but not really. In any case, it was just a little too close to the ropes for her to Americana, I guess, to do what she needed to do. But anyhow, she hits that, and then we have another moment that doesn't make a lot of sense. She gets up on the second rope while Penelope Pink is down and behind her. She did look like she had a look of determination on her when she got up and charged to the ropes. I have to give her that. Because that was one of the little moments and those one little 2 or 3 seconds that it took to help tell something, and I thought she did it pretty well. Like, well, she looked like she yelled, "What does it take?" Like after she springboarded and got Penelope Pink and took her down, when she goes directly for the cover, the ref tries to get the 3 count in, and Pink kicks out, and then you got Americana. What does it take? Or she's yelling. At least I think that's what she said. It looked like that's what she was mouthing, and then the look on her face is like, okay, I know, I'll come off the top rope. So I thought that out of her was really good. The downside of that was when she did go to the top rope, that look of desperation quickly died and it turned into, all right, guys, cheer for me. She gets on the second rope and then she does her little pose to the audience, which I was like, now, you just took this moment of what is it going to take? Now, let's think about the psychology. She just went through the frustration of what is it going to take to looking like, I know what I can do. Goes up there, and then she stops what she's doing to play with the audience. This might have worked a little better if we had just taken that part out of it. If we had just removed the stand on the ropes and wave. Because outside of that, if you didn't have that moment in there, it all works fine. She got up there, went to the second rope, springboarded back for like a crossbody. That was frustrating. She couldn't get the win there. Pink counters whatever it is that she was trying to do next, rolls out of it, comes across her with a knee lift, boom, 1, 2, 3, and she's down and over. The match was fine. It was just little things in it. But overall, I mean, it's a thumbs up match. I don't think there's anything that you can complain about there. Pink wins with a V-trigger knee lift. I'm sure that's not what she calls it, but that's what she wins with. My note that I put after this match is, are Americana and Santana Garrett still a team or not? Like, what was the point in putting this new All-American girls together just to have them go into singles matches every other week? Next segment is promos for the next match, Campanelli versus Sasha Sparks. Storyline-wise, this is probably the worst of it. I think it is safe to say now, because we were all trying to wait and see where this thing with Ariel Sky was going to go. Was this a case of she's just playing the game ahead of everybody? Is she trying to trick some people? Not people, trying to trick Top Tier and Coach Campanelli specifically. None of the above. This was a waste of an angle. An absolute waste. The entirety of Ariel Sky dealing with Coach Campanelli / Top Tier is a massive fail. I have a really hard time imagining how anyone in creative there could have looked at this and said, man, this is gold. This is good stuff. They are really going to want to see Ariel Sky win after we get done doing this, boy. I can't imagine anybody thinking that. This is another case of what I said with Princess Aussie and Adriana Gamble. It's missing a massive segment of this story for anyone to care. The baby faces almost all look idiotic, ill-prepared, and stupid to situations that they're walking into with almost certain defeat. Sasha Sparks being the next one in line. We started this off on the night with Americana. Coming out there when we know we got Vicky Land and Lana Starr, and I have a partner somewhere in the building, but she decides not to show up with me. Well, we got the same thing here. Sasha Sparks has a partner, but despite the fact that you've got four people overall, 3 on the outside, 1 on the inside that you're coming up against, and you already knew this, there is no partner to be found, not even to stand there in moral support. So, the story here is not Sasha Sparks. The story here is Ariel Sky. Or at least that's what it became. The commentators are trying to make this situation sound as if Ariel Sky has just been humiliated. Now, I paused the review of the match to say this. At what point was she humiliated? Even when it gets to the promo, the heel here agrees with stuff that I said for weeks about this. It is mind-boggling how this could have been such a fail. At this point, the least you could have did, the least, was have her actually do something on camera that shows her being humiliated, not us having to trust the commentators that it took place. Pull up to the building, make her grab the bags, carry this stuff. Get into the locker room. Hey, whoa, what are you doing in here? You dressed in the broom closet. Go to catering. We brought you a sack lunch. All this stuff on the table here is for us. Just whatever. Something to show that she is being treated less than. And I don't like trying to make it sound, well, it's simple, it's easy, anybody. I don't want to make it sound like that, but this is Cinderella. That's about as basic as I could put it. This story is Cinderella. And she's got the evil stepsisters. Why is it difficult to show that the abuse, even if it's just verbal? When, the story of that came out, so many centuries ago, or with decades or whatever, you're rooting for her to get the prince in the end because she's gone through so much stuff. I mean, the Disney movie version of it, yeah, it's fine. But just the book and the movie, they both relate the same thing. Here's this young girl. Her name is built off of her being a servant with the cinders. So she becomes Cinderella for cleaning the chimneys and whatnot. Or at least that's what she's named. Her sisters don't like her. Her stepmother doesn't like her. And they do everything possible to keep her in her place. Fix this for me. Make my food. Clean this house. Why is it so dirty? Why are you taking so long? Something like that could have gone a long way in this situation. A scene in a locker room where they're all being demanding, over the top. Bring me my stuff. I thought you were supposed to fix this. Where's my shoes? Ariel, blah, 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 blah. None of that. But we're supposed to feel sorry for her. We're supposed to feel sympathetic for her. And never mind the fact that if they really had tried, she has a sympathetic face. She has a very sympathetic face to begin with. And that got lost here. She didn't really look like she was being forced into doing anything, on the outside of the ring. The times that she did participate, she didn't look like they was twisting her arm to make her do it. Maybe the timing was bad, but okay, so what? She did it. She did what she asked you to do. All of this is just awful. Awful. The match here is secondary, as you can see, because there's nothing important about the fact that this match even took place. I mean, did they do fine? Yes. But Sasha Sparks, in this instance, just filling the role. And I don't even understand why they came up with another variation of team spirit to begin with. Have they teamed up ever since losing that trios tournament? Riley's been out there for in one of those matches, but it's like they went right into doing just singles matches. So in any case, just to move forward in here, like I said, there was a point where when Ariel Sky does cheat for them, it doesn't look like they had to twist her arm to make her do it. There's a point where Sasha Sparks is in the corner, Coach Campanelli is yammering with the referee, and as she's in the corner in the bottom, Ariel Sky comes over there with the towel and wraps it around Sasha Sparks' throat, her quote former friend. The other two are yelling at her like, "What are you doing?" Now it's put off as if, "What are you doing?" because you can get her disqualified. And that makes sense. But outside of that, again, it doesn't look like they made her do it. It wasn't by force. She went in and chose to help Coach Campanelli, and she just was bad at doing it. Nothing that's happened on the outside helps sell the story. Nothing that has happened in the backstage or in the interviews. Nothing has happened to help sell the idea that Ariel Sky is stuck in a position that she does not wish to be in. The only thing that gives it any sort of hope, and they don't do a great job with it because they can't. I mean, this has to be seen, not told, is the commentators. Well, they try, but it ain't good enough. There's nothing that they can do or say that would be good enough. So in any case, we got a point here where Sasha Sparks gets to turn the heat around. She gets a couple of elbows in on Coach Campanelli. She tries to finish this off with a bulldog going across the ring. This is where Campanelli gets to fake her injury. She kicks out of the pinfall from the bulldog, and then she thrashes around on the ground. She's like, trying to show that her nose is possibly broken. Referee Scheinberg gets over there to take a look. I didn't mind what they were attempting to go for here. What I started to mind was how it finished up. So while this is going on, Candy Crush gets up on the apron, and Sasha Sparks like, "What are you doing?" And then she gets punched in the face, which ideally, with her being shown as a boxer, ideally that would have left her staggered and dazed to be unable to do anything from that point out. That wasn't the case, or at least not long term. She gets up she does stagger a bit. Not long, like I said. And then she essentially gets hooked into the buzzer beater, which is her version, her being Coach Campanelli, version of the Christian Cage's kill switch. It does not get taken well. They did change the camera angle to try to cover that up, in editing, but it was not taken well. It was like a phantom hit. If it was shown from the side, it would have been that much worse. I mean, it's bad enough as it is there, but if it was shown from the side where it was profiled that she just dropped down on her own rather than being driven, then yeah, it would have just made it look that much worse. But that's how this went. Campanelli hits her with the buzzer beater for the win. 1, 2, 3, boom, we're done. Sparks took the move bad, but what can we do? So this ends, and we have an after-match promo. And suddenly, Ariel Sky develops some guts, and she decides that it's been 30 days, and she didn't want to be a Watergirl anymore. I do not recall within the agreement that they made that it was supposed to be for some specified time limit. So that was the first thing I had issue with. It was like, okay, did she go into this under the understanding that she was taking a job as a water girl or not? Did she not understand that this was supposed to be for a permanent position? And then Campanelli says exactly what I was thinking. You got what you wanted, which is everything that I've said in these reviews. You got what you wanted. I want to continue to, I'll never forget that line. I want to continue to work hard for you, coach. Well, apparently not. This is another case where I have to side with the heel. Campanelli did not do anything wrong in this instance. I'm not saying that she isn't a jerk as a character. I'm not saying that she isn't bossy and condescending and all. She is all of those things. But when we look at the entirety of this thing, Ariel Sky allowed her to be the boss of her a long time ago when they were part of Team Spirit. Okay, so she was condescending and a jerk. She swapped him out to a team that she liked. Okay? She beats up Ariel Sky at the end of the tournament, only to have Ariel Sky come groveling back to be her friend. Even though, like a week or two ahead of that, she ripped up the picture, essentially doubling down on what had already happened to her, but then erased it, like I said, 2 weeks later or something like that. Takes the challenge of wanting to join top tier while verbally dismissing the team that she was just part of. I know Team Spirit is a B team, but you and we had something special. Gets presented the circumstances of, well, if you win, you're part of Team Spirit. If you lose, you're a water girl. Do not recall any time limit attached to it. She loses. Didn't complain. Does the job. They never really asked her to do all that much. I mean, other than when she shot a refreshing jot of water into Princess Aussie's mouth. And even here, didn't look like anybody told her to put the towel around her throat. She just did it. And then we get to this, and then it's, I don't want to do this anymore. Visually, this also looks bad. Like I said, does not relate any bit of humiliation, any bit of you're beneath me, any bit of where anybody would look at this and say that, man, I really hope that Campanelli gets her comeuppance. And not 30 days later, we're back to another stipulation match. Like, what did Campanelli go through this for in the first place? If it was just going to be a simple, oh, you want to get free, huh? Well, how about you wrestle me in a match? Why would she even suggest that? Why would she even have that come out of her mouth where she would give the offer for her to get free? Didn't make her work for it. Didn't let her suggest it on her own. Not just right into it. Well, how about you wrestle me for a match? And if you beat me, you'll be free. And then, of course, David McLean. He can make matches when he feel like it, and I guess this is one of them. We'll have a freedom match. God. A freedom match. Yeah. That sounds awful. As a title, anyway. But the build of this is terrible. Since we're only a match away, theoretically, from this being over with, I can officially say this angle is awful. Poorly executed, went nowhere. And it's just more questions. Why? Like I'm stuck on that. Why is Campanelli immediately willing to offer her a match to get out of being a Watergirl? If I was trying to humiliate you, I was like, no, you don't get that. Unless at least force her into doing it. You want to give Dave McLean something to do on screen, make it so that he has to. No, I make those decisions, and I think she deserves a shot to get out of it. Even though this is far too soon, like it didn't build anything. It didn't make me, and I would dare say or assume that most people, it didn't make anybody care whether she was in that group or not. Didn't change a thing. This is just terrible stuff. And that alone drags this entire show down. Next segment is the opening of the main event match. Although they did not go into the main event match within this particular segment. Chainsaw is revealed as the mystery partner to Reina Del Rey. The commentators talk up the resources of Gambino and her family, her alleged family. So that's all this was. I mean, it was just the point where we get to see Reina Del Rey's mystery partner. And I don't know if that was some sort of big thing that anybody was waiting with, bated breath to see or hear, but that's who we got. I repeat the question I had earlier. What is Adriana Gambino's motivation behind dealing with, attacking, wanting to be rid of Princess Aussie? It has not gotten to the point where it's as bad as the Ariel Sky Campanelli thing, and I really wish I could hear somebody justify that entire angle to me. Because if you can justify the babyface going in here groveling to somebody who just attacked them on national television to why they should be wanting to be there in the first place is just ludicrous. But anyhow, yeah, it hasn't slipped down that far yet, but it does feel like it has the potential to get there despite the fact that we've got many talented people in the ring. The next segment was the breaking point before the match, and there was an ad for next week's match. The triple threat of Exile for the leadership of Exile as well. Why is this happening? I have no idea, but I just why are we going through this? Is kind of the same thing I just said about Campanelli. Why would Genesis suddenly just leap into, we got to settle this thing between us? I need a match. We'll see who's the best. And never mind the fact that she interrupted the match that she allegedly wanted to see them be find out who's the best just within them. And that went nowhere. So the next segment is the main event and the match in and of itself. And we find out that Princess Aussie's partner is Tormenta. Now, I know that WoW will ignore Tormenta's win-loss record. And I know WoW will ignore how she's been presented within that company since she's been there. Because there's always like a mental reset when it deals with Tormenta. No matter how many times she loses, she's introduced as, some sort of grand champion or something along those lines. And I'm not saying that she's somehow an incapable wrestler. She's very capable. But within this promotion, Tormenta loses too much for this to be anything that anybody could possibly care about. Unless you just happen to be a fan of Tormenta. But her presentation on this show has been less than, to say the least. She has lost far more often than she's won. And I know that some people do subscribe to the motto that, well, wins and losses don't matter. And in some cases, they don't. But I am a believer that the wins and losses do matter when you're trying to present somebody as a big deal and or make them an attraction. Tormenta was neither. It was mentioned earlier in the episode by Adriana Gambino that basically, who are you going to ask for help? You got no friends, talking to Princess Aussie. And I just bring that up now before going into the match to ask myself that question. Does Princess Aussie have any friends? The reason I say that is because twice now in this situation, I know I said it when we looked at the elbow of Tormenta, who we now know as Tormenta in the previous backstage segment. But why is it that she is not gone and asked a single babyface that works in that company for help? I mean, aren't there enough people on that roster to where she could have asked at least a few? Hey, maybe get turned down once or twice, like, I'm busy, I got this, I got that. But it's like she went directly and immediately over to asking the heels. Now, okay, you could question the Candy Crush thing, but she'd have to be just ignoring the world around her not to understand that this woman has flipped to the dark side, so to speak. But are there no one other than that in the roster, like her former friend, which she got told directly, I don't want to be bothered with you anymore, and still went and asked her for help, which makes her sound and look tone deaf. And then rather than ask anybody else in the locker room that might be around to do something with her, I just go right into the heel locker room and ask them. But who else do we have here? I mean, she could have asked and been turned down by, look, Santana Garrett wasn't doing anything. She wasn't doing anything. Why not ask her? She's former Wild champion. She could have asked Americana if she wouldn't bother with these, go nowhere nonsensical matches. The Beast, couldn't ask her. Steffi Slays, who doesn't have a good win-loss record either, but like I said, neither did Tormenta. Keita Rush, same rules apply. Maybe not the best win-loss record, but why not? I think you get the point here. Why would she immediately seek out a heel to help her? And it wasn't a case of this heel was so tough and so strong that I really wish, she could be my partner. I mean, how long ago has it been since they wrestled? Months? Never hadn't thought about Tormenta up until that point. We weren't even sure if Tormenta had gone babyface. We knew that there was problems in Paradise as far as the Lopez faction is concerned, but how are we to know? There's been no promo. There's been no instances of them doing anything further. We don't know if I guess she's a babyface now, but yeah, we had no idea. So anyhow, the match. We find out who this, and visually speaking, they look great. Chainsaw being with Reina Del Rey works also. I still maintain for her, it's probably the easiest way to be a rookie in that company. She gets to be the monster. And because she is the monster, she can be a little, I didn't want to say sloppy, but I can't think of nothing else to say. She can be a little sloppy if she wants to be, because Chainsaw can be Chainsaw the monster. Doesn't have to be crisp. She shouldn't be crisp. She shouldn't be a technician. She should be a brute in the ring. And as such, her being smooth is not something that I'm looking forward to. I want her to be as rough as they come. So, going off into the match. And like I said, there was no real, yay, I'm glad to see this partner on either side, quite honestly. I don't think this would have affected any viewership either way. If they'd have just said, next week, fans, is going to be Tormenta teaming with Princess Aussie or whatever. I'm just a believer if you're going to do a mystery angle like that, at least, make it worth it. It just didn't feel worth it. And it felt less worth it that the opposition had to immediately go into the same thing. Well, you got a mystery partner. I found one too. This rivalry is hard to get into because I don't know why it exists. So it's a little difficult for me right now. So anyhow, going into the match, having Tormenta there portrayed her as being a little bit more on equal ground strength-wise than they had done with Princess Aussie. With Aussie, it was presented a little bit more as an underdog deal rather than I am equal to. With Tormenta, that seemed a little bit different. She tied up with Reina Del Rey. It didn't seem like she was being bullied around or pushed around or whatnot. She was able to hold her own. So that seemed to be one of the first things I noticed. Aside from the fact that they being the baby faces, Aussie and Tormenta seemed to be immediately getting along. Like there was no animosity, no, will she, won't she type vibe that's going on. Can she trust her? That type of thing. So I guess that was not the big story. I'm going to assume that Tormenta has gone full-fledged babyface now. And maybe this will be her new partner. Maybe they'll go for a run after the titles. Who knows? They already had some sort of tandem move down that I was like, well, clearly they had to work this out somewhere along the line, because there's no way that Tormenta and Princess Aussie had this tandem reversal double code breaker move just done on the spot. That had to be done in practice and preparation. But anyhow, the heat gets put in on Aussie. She goes into the ropes. Reina Del Rey looked like she grabs her hair, although I couldn't see it because it was off. During all this, I forgot to mention Adriana Gambino is playing the part of the manager here. She's standing on the outside. I still do not understand why this is taking place or what this is for. The match is fine, just don't understand the motivation. So there's a lot of Aussie getting beaten up, choked out, slammed around, and all that good stuff until she's able to break herself free from the corner and get over to her partner so she can get a quick tag in. Or at least, gain some help from Tormenta. But that happens courtesy of a screw up by the this is by the baby faces. Courtesy of a screw up by the heels. So what we had is the old misdirection play. Or would that be a misdirection? The old screw up. We'll just call it that. And I also have to say that Gambino does a great job, even as a manager on the outside. She's fine. She's showing a lot of energy, showing that she's participating, showing that she's interested in who's actually going to win rather than standing out there like a bump on a log. So Chainsaw charges across the ring and knocks Tormenta off of the apron. She then, not a good shot because it shows Tormenta just kind of hanging off of the apron. I wish they hadn't used this one, but I guess there wasn't a lot of options there. Chainsaw standing in the corner as Reina Del Rey is holding Aussie in a full Nelson. She's going to charge her and do something. We're just going to assume that it was a clothesline. So now Chainsaw charges in. Aussie gets out of the way. Chainsaw nails Reina Del Rey. And a great move, and if it's kind of a blink and you'll miss it, by Tormenta, where she does a drop kick on Chainsaw and turns her body and splashes Reina Del Rey at the same time. Very smooth. Like I said, it's a blink and you'll miss it if you didn't see her do that at the time. But that becomes the setup move as she kind of perches herself on the outside. Now, it looked like she was going to jump on Gambino, but Gambino didn't turn around. I mean, she was poised and ready to go. It just never happened. But while she's doing that and Gambino's yelling at Chainsaw basically that she screwed up, Ozzy's on the inside while Del Rey is down, having got hit by her partner and by a splash by Tormenta. Now she's got a top rope splash to deal with coming from Princess Aussie. She goes to the top rope, hits her with a frog splash. 1, 2, 3, they win. Baby faces go over. Congratulations to them. The next part of the angle, I'm going to say, because it's not part of the show, I'm not sure shit will play into the next stuff or not. There's a promo that takes place, because they do this all the time. They have a promo from the losers of this match, even though they seem pretty made up. I mean, Gambino didn't wrestle, but Reina Del Rey certainly seems like she just came out of the makeup chair, but, that's neither here nor there. And they're carrying on about the reason that this took place. If you go to their Instagram, just seek it out, because it sounds like this is changing direction towards Chainsaw now. Like, the blame went on Chainsaw, and it's not on TV, so if it doesn't go anywhere with that, then I can understand it. But why release that information and this promo in the first place if it's not going to serve any sort of purpose? You know what I mean? That's just how I see that. But anyway, that was the bulk of the show. Yeah, a D. I can't say it. It's not really a show for me. It's not a full-grown fail top to bottom, but it also isn't a great show because of exceptional logical gaps. Not as bad in the main event, because that could still be salvaged. It's not like it's so far away or so far apart in timing with her asking for Tormenta's help or something like that she can't explain it, or she can't post it somewhere, or they can't have a little segment as to why she chose to partner up with her. I mean, I know they felt like they probably explained it when she sat down in the room like, you the hardest opponent I ever fought and all that good stuff. But to hear it in Tormenta's words or something like that, well, like how this union came to be, it would, they can get some extra explanation in there. Then it doesn't take much. So it's not nearly as bad as the old Ariel Sky thing. The Ariel Sky Campanelli thing is just, whew. That is a stinker. And that alone drags this entire show down, in my opinion. It just decreases the intelligence of everything else around it. But rather than to go into that further, this is the point where I'm going to read off the press release for what is supposed to be the next episode, because sometimes it upsets me and sometimes it doesn't to know what they might be doing in the next episode. And I'd like to share some of that potential frustration or pleasure with you. So if you don't want to hear it, this is your chance to skip ahead. If we're still here, then here we go. The next episode, Season 2, Episode 36, A Long Road Back. Former WoW World Champion Santana Garrett gets emotional as she recounts her long journey back to WoW and why this road means so much. She sets her sights back on the WoW Championship title and challenges Abilene Maverick to defend her championship title in the main event. The Heavy Metal Sisters, Fury and Rebel Hayes, attempt to shred Beach Babes Spring Break 24/7. But who will come out on top? With Team Exile on the verge of collapse, all three members are vying for a chance to prove themselves in the ring during an action-packed triple threat match. Lana Starr finds new opponents for her Miami's Sweet Heat, Lovely Laurie and Luscious Lindsay in Dancing Queen Chantella Chella and Wildcard Holiday. Will Santana Garrett become the new WoW World Champion for a second time in her career, or will the champ Abilene Maverick retain her VIP status? And that is the preview for the next episode. And that is the show. Of course, I want to thank you for tuning in for this particular podcast. I know you got many different podcast choices out there. You chose this one, and I appreciate that. If you are looking to further support the show, a like will go a long way for these particular episodes, especially on YouTube. But if you are listening to this on greater podcast platforms everywhere, then you can just check out your particular favorite. That'd be iTunes, or well, I guess there isn't a Google Play anymore, but Podster, Podbean, the whole 9 yards. You can check us out for that. All you got to do is search out WPN. We usually pop right on up at the top of that list. But if you're having a hard time finding it that way and you just want the MP3, usually the links are in the videos on YouTube. And you can always go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com is the centerpiece for everything that goes on. Still thinking about whether I should redo that site. I probably should. But in any case, it is there. It is active. It has all the podcast episodes that go there. It drops there every week. So if you can't find it where you normally listen to your podcast, you can download it right there off the website. And there is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week stream of videos that have been compiled from the Women's Pro Wrestling Network going back to 2013. Well, one or two of them are like 2011. So that it goes back quite a long ways with faces that you may recognize. Some are local to me, but there are some there that you may know from other platforms. Aja Smith, who's a working referee in WWE these days. Back then, she was an indie darling. Kiera Hogan, Jesse Smothers, who you now know as Jesse Jones. Harlow O'Hara, who you may now know as one half of the Heavy Metal Sisters, Fury, and others such as Nina Monet, who you now know as Siren, and so on and so forth. All you got to do is just go to our channel, scroll through the videos, and you can pick them out as you're on demand, if you will. But if you just want to catch it when you catch it, go to WPNWrestling.com. And it is, like I said, always on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The stream is always running. It may not always be wrestling, but it's always running. And on that note, folks, thanks again so very much. I do appreciate your time and your ear tuning in and listening to me and getting involved in these conversations. I miss having people to chat about wrestling with sometimes, and you have all kind of popped in and filled in on that, and I really do thank you for that. So I will close out and say this, that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.